And so we've all heard the phrase, "you've got big shoes to fill." We know what it's talking about as well, where someone has stepped into a new position and they're replacing someone that was formerly in that position. And now if the original person did a phenomenal job, or they did a really good job, then we say that person who's stepping into the new role has big shoes to fill. And have you ever seen someone walk around or try to walk in big shoes? Maybe it's a little girl walking in her mom's high heels, or a kid walking in their dad's hiking boots or work boots. They're kind of clumsy. It can be kind of difficult for them to walk. Their little legs might, if it's a really big boot, might not be able to lift the boot. They might stumble around. And so it's hard for them to do. Sometimes the shoes are difficult to lift. And so it's hard to walk around. It's kind of like walking around in ski boots. I don't know if anyone's ever been skiing before, but they always tell you heel toe. And it's a boot. There is no bend in the ankle. It's solid plastic. And it's very clunky, and it's difficult to walk around in. But the situation where someone has big shoes to fill, we've all either been in that position at some point in our life, or we at least have probably seen someone come into a new position, and we've seen where they've got big shoes to fill. And it's tough because sometimes there's the comparison game, where you look at the person and you think, okay, are they going to do as good of a job as the other person? Or am I going to like them as much as the other person? Or is this new person going to like me as much as the other person? And then if you're the new person, you might have a lot of pressure on yourself. You have certain expectations you've got to meet, and it can be intimidating, not knowing if you're going to meet those expectations or not. And so this is the situation that we find Joshua in Joshua chapter 1. And so Moses, Joshua's maybe mentor, you could say, has died. And now we come to Joshua. Moses died at the end of Deuteronomy. And hopefully Joshua has seen this coming. That, his mentor, Moses, obviously was not going to live forever. And so then we come to Joshua chapter 1, and verses 1 through 9. It says, "After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, 'Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then you and all these people get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I'm about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, and from the great river, the Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the great sea on the west. No one will be able to stand up against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go.'" I try to imagine Joshua's reaction when, God speaks to him. Hopefully, like I said, hopefully he saw this coming. It wasn't just a bombshell that God dropped on him. But, you kind of almost expect maybe Joshua to kind of hear God and say, "You want me to do what, God?" You want me to fill the shoes of Moses? You want me to take Moses' position? Joshua may be wondering, God, you have the wrong person. And God tells Joshua that he's going to give him and the Israelites the land that was promised to them. And then he tells him in verse 5, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. No one will be able to stand up against you. I will never leave you nor forsake you." I mean, how encouraging is that? To be told from God that you are going to lead these people and there is guaranteed success. We all like guarantees in life. About a week and a half ago, Jessica and I, we bought a fridge from Lowe's, and we got the extended warranty, where pretty much, we can do anything short of throwing the fridge off a cliff, and Lowe's will come and replace anything that's broken on the fridge. And, we like that. We're like, okay, for the next 5 years, pretty much, if anything goes wrong, I can call them. That's a guarantee or a warranty. And we like those guarantees. And so God, in verse 7, God gives Joshua a warranty, basically, or a guarantee. And so God gave Joshua a warranty, basically, as long as they obey God's law, he will be with the Israelites and they will be blessed. I mean, how great of a guarantee is that? Let's read again in verse 6. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their forefathers to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. That's that guarantee or that warranty we just talked about. Do not let this book of the law depart from your mouth. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be terrified, do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Do you hear that repetition there? Be strong and courageous in verse 6. Be strong and very courageous in verse 7. And then 9, have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? God's reminding Joshua over and over to be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. All the days of your life, the Lord will be with you. God's looking down at Joshua and saying, Joshua, you have no reason to doubt, no reason to be afraid. I'm going to be with you, and no one is going to overcome you. I mean, with words like that, how can Joshua not just be like, all right, let's go? I mean, ready to go. With that kind of promise or guarantee from God, how could you not walk away from that and not feel like you're on top of the world? How could you not feel like you could not conquer the world with a pep talk like that from God? And that's kind of what that is. It's kind of like a pep talk. Has anyone ever wanted a pep talk like that from God? Anyone ever been in a real difficult situation and you just need God to maybe come in and tell you everything's going to be okay? I know I've had moments like that before where there's maybe fear or doubt, and I need that reassurance. I need that reassurance that everything will be okay. We all have moments in our life where we want God to come say to us, Mike, you are a child of mine. You are one of my own, and you will get through this. You are strong with my strength, and you are an overcomer. This idea of strength and boldness, it's similar to what we see from David in 1 Samuel chapter 17. 1 Samuel 17. When David goes up against Goliath, verse 45, David said to the Philistine, to Goliath, you come against me with sword and spear and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day the Lord will hand you over to me, and I'll strike you down and cut off your head. Today I will give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that it is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands. I mean, you read that and you think, wow, could I do that? Do I have enough faith or enough boldness to go up before a giant or a metaphorical giant and say, because of God, I know I can overcome this? We all want that pep talk that God gives Joshua. We want the boldness of David. We want the courage. And we can have that. Yeah, God isn't going to come down and speak to us directly like he did Joshua, but we can and should have that confidence and courage that we see in Joshua and David. But many times when we're given a task, we can't accomplish it on our own. In fact, it's best that when we're given a task like this, that we seek out the help of others. We, as a people, we're meant to be in a community with others. We need to be in relationship with other people. God created the church family with a purpose where we need one another. We rely on one another. And so this is what Joshua does. I like the story of Joshua here in chapter 1 because when God gives Joshua this task, Joshua's response is very unique because he doesn't say, "Oh, can you send someone else, God?" Or "God, don't send me, I can't talk well." Joshua doesn't respond in this way, which is what we see very many other times from other people like Moses, where they try to push it off on someone else. But Joshua, you almost get the sense that Joshua he gets this pep talk from God and he jumps right in. He's like, "All right, let's go." He's ready to go. And so Joshua gathers those from the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh. If you remember back, they received their land east of the Jordan. So they got their land before everyone else. And Joshua says to them, starting in verse 12, "But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said to them, 'Remember the command that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you. The Lord your God is with you, or the Lord your God is giving you rest and has granted you this land. Your wives, your children, and your livestock may stay in that land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan, but all your fighting men, fully armed, must cross over ahead of your brothers. You are to help your brothers until the Lord gives them rest as he has done for you, and until they too have taken possession of the land that the Lord your God is giving them. After that you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you east of the Jordan toward the sunrise.'" So Joshua gathers those from Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, and he says, remember, you've got to help us. You don't get it off easy and get to just sit in the sun, and watch us go fight the battle. You're part of the community. And so Joshua gathers the whole community together to help him. And then what do they say to Joshua? Did they say, "Oh, Joshua, no, you're so silly. We're going to stay here and you're going to go fight them"? No, listen to what they say in verse 16. "Then they answered Joshua, 'Whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, Joshua, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey your words, whatever you may command them will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous.'" They say, "We'll do whatever you command us to do, Joshua. And in fact, we will follow you and obey you just as much as we did Moses." Talk about a load off of Joshua's shoulders. Stepping into this position wondering, are these people going to follow me like they followed Moses? Are they going to respect me like they respected Moses? Is this even going to be worth it? And then they say to Joshua, "We'll follow you just as fully as we followed Moses." And then they say to him at the very end of verse 18, "Only be strong and courageous." Now, where have we heard that before? That's what God said to Joshua just a few verses back. God told Joshua, "Be strong and courageous." And then here we have the Israelites, or the people from Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, saying to Joshua, "Be strong and courageous." Talk about a confirmation or a reminder for Joshua to be brave. Confirmation that God is there. God is working with the people. And that's what we all want. We want and need people to help us. We want people to say exactly what the Israelites said and say, I'll follow you. I'll lead, or you lead and I'll follow. I'll do whatever you say. And so we want in our lives people who are willing to help us. And I think it's also a good reminder for us to be willing to be those people. Be willing to be people who help, who say to other people, I'm willing to follow. You lead this task and I'll follow you. So Joshua, he's starting to feel pretty good. God's given him the pep talk in verses 1 through 9. The Israelites have said, Joshua, we'll do whatever you tell us to do. We'll follow you wholeheartedly. We'll follow you just like we did Moses. And so the prep work is done. The prep work is done, and now we come to chapter 2, and it's time to start taking action. And so in chapter 2, we have the story of Rahab and the spies. And we won't read through the whole story, but we have these spies, and they end up at the home of Rahab, who's a prostitute. And the fact that they end up at her home is just, pretty impressive to me. I don't know, when I read that, I've always wondered how they end up at theirs, and the best I can come up with is God had to have been working in that situation. God was involved, and that makes sense because in chapter 1, we kind of get this idea that God is involved. It's not by man's hand that they are going to conquer the land of Canaan, but it's by the hand of God. And so they're at the home of Rahab, and she's here with the two spies, and she makes this amazing statement of faith about God. In verses 8 and following, verses 8 through 13 of chapter 2, Rahab says, Before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given this land to you, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Two things about this. Imagine being in the spy's position, and you come to this person's house, and you know what her occupation is, and she says, I know God or the Lord has given you this land. Confirmation right there that God is working on behalf of the Israelites. And then she makes this statement in verse 11, the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. She recognizes that the Lord is God. This woman with a horrible past makes this grand statement of faith about God. And again, we have this confirmation that God is with his people. So Joshua is given big shoes to fill, but he gets confirmation to take action from God, confirmation from the Israelites, and confirmation from Rahab that they are to conquer the land of Canaan and that they will succeed. We've all been in, or at least seen, those situations where someone has to step into a new role or has big shoes to fill. But we're all also called to, at different times in our life, to take actions for God. God called Joshua to fill the role of leader after Moses died, and he called him to lead the Israelites into the land of Canaan. Now, we probably won't have an encounter like Joshua had with God where God speaks directly to us, but we all still are presented with certain situations, and we know we're presented with certain situations where we know we should do something, where we know we should take action. But sometimes we might get scared or we get nervous, we get intimidated. But we can take comfort in Joshua's situation. Just as God told Joshua, be strong and courageous, God tells us to be strong and courageous. Matthew chapter 7, verse 25. This is part of the Sermon on the Mount. Wait, not Matthew 7:25. Matthew 6:25. Matthew 6:25. Sorry about that. Jesus says, therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more important than food, and the body more important than clothes? And then jump down to verse 33. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. We're told not to be worried, not to worry, not to be nervous. But our top priority in verse 33 is to seek the kingdom of God. So what actions is God calling you to take? Is there a ministry here at Choctaw that God wants you to get involved with? Or is there a ministry that he wants you to lead here at Choctaw? Is there a friend at work or neighbor or a friend at school that you need to share your faith with? Or maybe you need to take the first action of becoming a Christian and entering into a relationship with God through baptism. The action or task is going to be different for all of us because we're all in different phases of life. But it's not too different because God will be with us through all of it. Just like he was working behind the scenes by using Rahab, God will be working behind the scenes in all of our situations by using fellow Christian, using people here at the church to remind us, to confirm whatever task we might be given. And so if there's anything we can help you with tonight, whether it be encouraging you to take that first step, to take that task, whether it be praying with you or encouraging you to find whatever that task is that God is helping you find, if there's anything we can do, please come now as we stand and sing.